Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We have a different setup today if you're watching. Lily came to visit me in Austin, Texas for the Dear Media in Real Life, Dear Media IRL event. And so we decided why not make a weekend about it, or around it rather. And so she was like, yeah, I'm going to come visit and we're going to do all things podcasting. So she is here and we are in my living room.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm in Austin. This is my second time visiting Jess, but this is the first time that we actually did a podcast related event. And I think for both of us, it was kind of like a dip into the podcasting world that was just more than surface level. Like we got to learn a lot. And so we really just wanted to bring that to the podcast today and to share with you what we learned. And also kind of like our takeaways too, like in terms of like, okay, so was it worth it? Will we do it again? You know, what are our plans for the future when it comes to these kinds of events? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Oh, and we're also going to talk about a couple of questions that we got from the audience. Mm-hmm. So we're going to answer them. And then we're going to dive into some of this event recapping.
Yes. So we're going to start there. So we had a few questions submitted last week. If you follow us on Insta, I posted a little question box. And so we had a few people submit some cues. So we're just going to answer those really quick. So the first question was not really a question, but it was saying that they want to see another live 13 sign astrology reading. But if you're listening, I actually already did that on episode 4. I read Lily's chart to her live. But if you guys are interested in something like that, we are actually thinking about, well, it's not really going to be a reading, but we're thinking about doing something more to come on that. But if you guys want to see another actual reading, let us know. But we can definitely bring that on. We're planning on bringing on more 13 sign astro stuff in different ways. So more to come on that. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
And then the second question, I was telling Lily before we hit record that I've gotten this question a lot, is do we read tarot?
Yeah, so I was kind of confused about this question, gonna be honest, because yes, I do have a tarot deck. Am I a tarot reader? No, I am not. So hopefully that answers your question. Jess and I both use decks in different ways, but no, I'm not a tarot reader, and I only have one tarot deck. A lot of my decks are actually oracle decks, or like, I guess really the two types are tarot and oracle. Mm-hmm. So most of my decks are oracle decks. We have an astrology deck that we share that we love, but yeah, we're not tarot readers.
Yeah, neither of us are. And that's actually a really common question that I get. I think people kind of just think that's just a really popular spiritual tool. So I think it's really common for people to kind of be like, oh, do you do tarot? But yeah, I definitely do not do tarot. As Lily said, I have oracle decks as well, but oracle decks are more, there's like a bunch of rules, right, to tarot? Aren't there rules to tarot?
Yeah. I mean, I think tarot is just like very in-depth because there's so many cards.
Yeah.
And they all have a reverse meaning, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely like a skill. Like I've had a tarot reading before from a woman at a like Renaissance fair type of situation, and she builds a story. I mean, like you do with normal cards too, but with tarot, I think it's just it's definitely like an art form. Mm-hmm. I think
for sure you have to like be trained in that. Like it's a legit thing.
Yeah, and it's also like when you have a tarot deck, you're gonna have all the same cards. Like there's gonna be different illustrations and stuff, but with oracle cards, like anything goes. But with tarot, it's like a format.
That's a good point. Yeah, because cards. Oracle decks are created by all different people. The tarot deck is like the tarot deck, and I have no idea who and when it was created, but it's like the same thing. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question for y'all. And then the last question we got was about if we were going to bring in a sidereal interpretation of the gene keys. So the gene keys is actually something we haven't talked about on here yet, but we're going to talk about them more. I'm going to let Lily take this question because she's much more into the gene keys than I.
Okay. Yeah. So if you did listen to our third episode with the Arizona experience that I had, you'll probably hear me talk about the gene keys, but not in like an in-depth way, not in a, this is what the system really is. I think it gave like a very brief description. So you can go back to that episode if you haven't listened to it already. But yeah, so we have astrology, we have human design, and then we have the gene keys. And the gene keys are kind of a combination of human design and astrology. I don't want to say it's a combination because it is a very specific system, but it has aspects of astrology and human design within. And so if you're familiar with your human design chart and you know your, what is that thing when it's the sun gate? You have 2 sun gates, channels. You have 2 earth gates, the 4 gates at the top.
Oh, incarnation cross.
Incarnation cross. So if you know your incarnation cross from your chart, which is the top 4 gates, like when you're looking at the chart, there's like 2 columns on each side of the body graph, and it's the top 2 on the right and top 2 on the left. Basically, those 4 gates make up the Gene Keys profile, the 4 main Gene Keys for your profile on genekey.com. You can go to the website and just pick up your free chart, the Gene Keys free chart. But so the Gene Keys in their traditional form are connected with tropical systems. So tropical human design and tropical astrology. And so obviously, Jess has brought 13 sign and sidereal systems into my life and into, your lives too as listeners. And I've always been really curious about how it, correlates to the other systems. Anyway, I'm not going to get too into the details here, but the easiest way for you to look at your Gene Keys chart is, as I said, through genekeys.com. Just get your free profile. And then the easiest way to look at your sidereal keys is simply to get it generated by a software. So I'll link this in the show notes. It's cosmichumandesign.com is the one that does 13 sign human design. So basically you put in all your details. You have to manipulate your birth time a little bit. So watch out for that. But then it generates your chart that is a cosmic 13 sign chart. And they also give you your gene keys in that system software generation. So you can do that. That's the easiest thing. But I will say, if you want to calculate it yourself, it is a little bit more complicated, but the easiest one is definitely your sun sign. So if you're looking at your Mastering the Zodiac 13 sign astrology chart and you look at where your sun is in that specific chart and you calculate the degree of that, then you can see what gene key is associated with. So for instance, my sun sign in the 13 sign system is 21 degrees Pisces. And so the gene keys make up a certain bandwidth of each zodiac sign. It's usually like, I think it's 5 to 6 degrees. Each gene key is 5 to 6 degrees of a zodiac band. So when I look at 21 degrees Pisces, I can just look up what gene key is happening or associated with that degree of Pisces, and then I know which gene key it is. So that's how you can look up your sun sign. It's pretty easy. And with Mastering the Zodiac, it doesn't actually give you the degree of your sun, but you can count it. I will warn you though, this is a common mistake. I say common because I made it. I don't know anyone else who's actually doing this. But because the 13 sign system doesn't follow what's the way to put it? Like basically, it's not one house per zodiac. So like for instance, Pisces might take up 2 houses because it's like a longer constellation. Mm-hmm. You don't want to start at the beginning of the house when you count the degrees. You want to start at the beginning of the zodiac sign when you count the degrees. So for me, it might look like I'm like 5 degrees Pisces if I start at the beginning of the house. But if I look at how long Pisces actually is and I start at the beginning of Pisces, that might even be in house 2. And then I count to where my sun sign is in house 3. Well, actually, it's in house 4. But you get what I'm saying here. So it kind of, there's a little bit to it, but it's once you start to kind of understand the system. Wait, what is funny about that?
This is so advanced.
Okay, it's advanced. It's advanced, but it isn't like impossible. So if you are the person who asked, then I'm sure that you can follow what I'm saying.
Lily is really good at this stuff. She'll be like calculating everything, and I'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everyone. But I will say, like, since I've like played around with it and stuff, I'm like, okay, I have a more intimate understanding of these systems. And like, my friend had a birthday the other day, and I was like, oh, I wonder what her sidereal key is. And I didn't even have to like do the calculations. I just kind of like mentally went back and was able to like find it and then like confirmed. So anyway, that's how you calculate sidereal. But I will say it's not always as easy as a sun sign, because not all of the points on the chart are, or the points on the gene key chart are that direct. Like, for instance, like your attraction key is associated with, I believe, your design date. So, we have the design date for human design, and then we have like the personality date, which is like your actual birthday, but like the design date is like 6 months prior to your birthday. So like it can get kind of complicated in that way, because, for example, like as I was saying, the attraction key is associated with the design date of where your sun sign is. So it's actually, or I'm sorry, your moon sign. So it's like 6 months prior to your birthday. Where was the moon? That's your attraction key. So like to calculate that one, it takes like more steps. But you can start with your sun and like start to get familiar with that if you're interested. But yeah, I think that covers it.
Wow. Yes, Lily's really good at this stuff, and she's been the one that's like, right when I introduced her to 13 sign astrology, she was like, how does this change human design? How does this change the gene keys? And so she's been in this really amazing exploration around that, and she's going to one day read me my sidereal gene keys, because I only know my tropical ones and I want to know. So yeah, okay. Thanks for answering that, Lil. And we'll probably bring more gene keys onto the podcast.
Yeah.
Just because it's definitely a tool that we utilize. Lily more so than me, but I really resonate with it when I'm told it. I just feel like my brain can only comprehend 13 sign astrology and human design at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Because now I do really see how they all flow together. I think my brain kind of works that way. Like,
let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
This is something Lily and I have talked about a lot, and I think this is really important. So we've gone over, okay, so there's tropical astrology, right? Which is what everybody knows. It's Western astrology. It's mainstream astrology. Y'all have heard us talk about it. Then there's 13 sign astrology, which is the astrology that I practice, which is what I've brought on. Then there's sidereal astrology, which is a different variation of astrology again. And it, again, your sign, your natal chart changes again from Western to sidereal, and even from 13 sign. 13 sign is considered a form of sidereal, but it varies in exactly how it calculates things. So basically, you can have 3 different charts in astrology and in human design and in the gene keys. And this is an exploration that Lily and I have really been on together. And we've talked about this because it really shakes you, and it really makes you think, especially if you're like really familiar with your tropical human design chart and astrology chart, to think like, oh, my chart completely changes in a different system is very shattering to the ego. It like doesn't want to change it, right? Especially because you're like, I've been embodying like this aspect of my chart, and no, I'm a blah blah blah. Anyways, so Lily and I have gone through this. So if you're listening, it's normal. It's very normal. Okay. And yeah, we kind of feel like we've compared all 3 of our human design charts in all 3 systems. And there are similarities in all 3 of them, but there's big differences in all 3 of them too. And so Lily, tell us like You made a really good point about the non-attachment to the tools. And then
Mm.
also just, you said something else once about it being different aspects of the self.
Yeah. No, uh, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, Jess, in terms of like, yeah, the attachment to the identity piece. But I honestly feel like that just completely shattered for me when you told me about my Pisces sun. And since then, I was just like,
Yeah.
really, truly, on like a deep level, just open to everything and just more so like in an explorative energy. I've like noticed in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, the way that I see it is that of course there are like different aspects of the self, number one, but number two is that it's all like a common thread. Like truly, I feel like if I dedicated my life to like understanding the interweavings of these systems and like how all of these facets of myself, like I would unlock every key I ever needed to my life. You know what I mean? Like I truly do. But like that's not what I'm doing, obviously, because I'm not going to just spend my life studying my charts. But like I really do feel that way because there is just so much intricacy within each system, but then also within the different charts and how they interweave together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's really cool. And I think that yeah, for me, it's definitely been this experience of like, oh, that makes sense. Like for example, my digestive type in terms of my tropical is calm digestion. And I really, really connect with that. When I learned about my digestive type in human design, if you're not familiar, in the other systems in sidereal and then true sky, I learned that I was an type, open type, I think that's what it's called, and then also a low sound type. So if you're not super familiar with what those means, basically like low sounds like nature sounds, Jess was telling me. And then open is like eating seasonally. And to me, you know, calm, low nature sounds, eating seasonally, it all kind of works together, you know? And so if I can interweave those dynamics in my life, great. You know, sometimes I don't, but it it forms a bigger picture. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
see it. It starts to form a bigger picture. And I'll also say your 13 sign, like your true sky chart, is the farthest away from your tropical chart. So between 13 sign and tropical is sidereal.
Mm-hmm.
So sidereal is like the middle ground. And you might, you know, it's a less of a jump, you know. So you might it just depends. It just depends if you're going to have the same sun sign in tropical sidereal. Maybe you have the sun sign that's the same in all three. I think that's more rare, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that that can happen with
Mm-hmm.
certain placements. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. I had a lot of resistance to, well, not really resistance. I just wasn't really super open to receiving my different human design charts, which was really interesting because I was telling Lily this, like my energy only wants to focus on 13 sign astrology when it comes to astrology. And I'm just letting it go there. Like that's just what it wants to do, which to me just means that I'm at the point in my life where that's the chart my soul wants to embody right now is 13 sign, and that can shift and change. I don't know, you know? And so I'm just flowing with it. And then yeah, I had this moment where I finally was like, I was doing a human design course and recently, a few months ago, and I felt really called to pull my 13 sign human design chart. And I was telling Lily about it. And I was just like, oh, I get it. Because in tropical human design, I am a 6-2 manifesting generator. I forget what I am in 13 sign, or in
Mm-hmm.
sidereal, but I know that I'm a 4-6 in sidereal, and I'm also a 4-6 in 13 sign, which
Mm.
is really interesting profile wise. And then in 13 sign, I'm a projector. And I was like, what the fuck? But the common thread piece that Lily was talking about, like she noticed that within her digestive pieces. And then I was noticing it within my profiles
Mm-hmm.
because, and I know it's a similar thing with your profiles because I'm a 6-2 in tropical and a 4-6. I believe it's a 4-6 in, I know for sure in 13 sign, but I believe it also is in sidereal.
Mm.
And so across all three of them, I have a 6 line. And then I also have that 4 line and then the 2 line, which I've always resonated with the 4 line. And, you know, even in your tropical chart, the lines can show up through your gates so you can resonate with them. But, just having it be my profile, that's something I've actually been integrating into my life lately, is operating as a 4-line and leaning into my network and my community for opportunities, which is a very 4-line thing to do. But I still resonate very deeply with being a 6-2. And so this is where what we're getting at is these charts offer these different systems, and different variations in our charts offer us different layers and insights into ourselves that we can take what resonates and kind of, again, as Lily said, thread it together and figure out how that kind of like completes the whole picture. Yeah. I don't want to say completes us, because it's like these tools don't complete us. But so yeah, I just, we were already talking about that. And this is something Lily and I haven't really shared on the podcast, but we've talked about it a lot amongst ourselves. And this is pretty advanced, like conceptually, like talking about it. But I don't know. I feel like being able to look at these different variations, it really just, again, when Lily told me, like, this really shattered like my attachment to all the charts. I was like, oh my God, I get that. And I think that's really important, because I think we can get very attached to these things, and we can be like, oh, well, I'm a 6-2, so I have to live my life this way. But it's like, no, you're a human, and you get to live life however you want to live. And these tools are just meant to guide you. And that's something that Lily and I really live by, and we feel really important. We feel it's really important. Mm-hmm. So we're just offering that up to you guys. This is a lot, but it's really cool, and it's really fun to look into.
Yeah. I mean, like Jess said, it is more advanced. And I think Jess and I both have years of study, but both through programs, but also through just my own kind of interest,
Self-study.
Yeah. And I think that plays a part, you know, like it plays a part in understanding these archetypes, understanding what they mean in your life. But yeah, I truly believe in terms of the non-attachment, it really just comes down to like, I want to say self-trust, but it's not even totally that. It's just trusting resonance. So like for me, like I'm okay with not identifying with one chart because I just trust the resonance.
I love that. And it's like different things are going to resonate for you at different times of your life too. And I think that that's really important as well, is to like, I feel like I hear this a lot. You probably hear it a lot too, is people are always like, especially in the spiritual space, they're like, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And it's the same in this case. Like your whole chart of any system, any tool does not have to resonate.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And I think it's also like taking a step back too, like just not caring quite as much, and I think that kind of goes along with the attachment. When we're like really attached to something, we're just like always thinking about it and like always trying to emulate it in some way in our lives. And I feel like part of what Jess and I kind of share in terms of like these spiritual things, just like not caring as much. Like, I know that sounds like not profound, but like it kind of, I mean, it is in a way. Like it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh my God, like it's like a tight grip versus, oh my gosh, someone said this recently. Oh my gosh, this was at the event. This woman said, I wear it as a loose garment. It's not something that is like constricting or like something that I'm like constantly holding close to me. It's like I wear it as a loose garment. And I feel like that's what these systems are like becoming to me. However, I definitely feel like pulled and drawn specifically around the Gene Keys work in terms of going deeper. I mean, it's just been uncanny like how that's shown up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting because I've been so deep in 13 sign astrology and regular astrology. I just know a lot about astrology. And Lily's been like so deep in the Gene Keys and human design. We're both pretty deep in human design too. And so it's really cool because we like come together and we would just offer each other these different insights from these different systems. Cause I always tell her, I'm like, can you just tell me my Gene Keys? Like, I don't want to look, I don't want to do it. And she's like, yeah, I got you. And then it's like the same for me with astrology. She's like, what does this mean? And I'm like, oh, this is what that means. And it's just really cool. It's really fun. We just bounce off each other in that way. So yeah, definitely like follow your curiosity wherever it leads you because it can be really fun. These tools are also just like, you can use them as personal development, which we definitely do too. And let it be fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so serious.
Oh my gosh. Seriously though, I have to say, like, when I was figuring out this sidereal part of it, I like became like frenzied. Like I remember doing this on the plane, like I probably look like a mad scientist. Like I was like writing all these notes, like like getting out my calculator and writing like through that. I was just like, this is crazy. Like, why am I doing this? But like that's what it means, like following that curiosity. Like I was curious. But then like once I kind of like built my charts for myself, I was like satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think I just needed to see them in the ways that I was like presenting them to myself. And most of it was the gene keys calculations. Like for gene keys, every key you have also has 2 more. So like you have a string of 3 for every key that you have. And essentially for me, that just builds the picture. And the gene keys is a little bit more of like a map of your life versus human design is like more so about how to live congruently. And astrology, I would say astrology is like a little bit more like a map of your life in a way, or like
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, and it also talks about like there are different aspects that talk about your personality and stuff too, but it definitely I would say talks more about like a map of your life, different areas of your life and how things express in them.
Yeah. Yeah, like the gene keys is like very much like a step by step. Like you have a gene key for ages 0 to 7, you have a gene key for ages 7 to 14, 14 to 21. Like it's a very much like a step by step walking through. It doesn't really talk about your personality at all.
That's so interesting. See, I didn't even know any of that.
Yeah, no.
I just haven't explored the gene keys enough, but I get so much out of it through you, and I prefer it that way. So
yeah, I love that. I feel like we're kind of the liaisons for each other in terms of these systems, just because we follow our natural interests.
Yeah.
And just go from there. But yeah, I mean, also to Jess's point about the profiles, I'm a 1-3 in sidereal, which is all about like investigating and research.
Oh, so true.
And then I'm a 5-1 in 13 sign. So I go from a 3-5 to a 1-3 to a 5-1. And like you guys see like how they can all interrelate. Yeah. I mean, they all have similar lines.
Yeah. The common lines are 5, 1, and 3.
Yeah.
Amongst all of them. And so it's the same with mine. It's just different lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of thought it was like the universe or God, whatever you want to think about in that way, is giving me a really good chance at mastering the 3-5. Because for me, my tropical is a 3-5, but then my sidereal is a 1-3. So it's like really focusing on like the 3 line. And then my cosmic or 13 sign is a 5-1. So it's like really focusing on the 5 line, because the 1 line is obviously in and of itself. But I just find it interesting that the 1 line is paired with the 3, and then the 1 line is paired with the 5. And then my tropical is the 3-5. So I don't know. I mean, you guys can see what it kind of looks like for you. You can build your own stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we went there.
Yeah.
And more to come, but let us know if you guys have any questions on this, and we're definitely going to bring in more Q&A episodes in the future, so we'll let you guys know when there's opportunity to ask. So, okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about Dear Media IRL.
I love how you said that.
Earl in real life. Okay, so a few weeks ago, was this a few weeks ago now that I brought this to you? I was telling Lily that I was like, oh, there's this big podcasting event here in Austin. And I was like, I'm for sure going to go because like I live here. Why wouldn't I go? And I sent it to her not thinking that she could come, just because it was literally like less than 2 weeks out from the event. And Lily, again, lives in Idaho, for y'all, if you don't know. And Lily's like, wait, I need to come to this. And I was like, please come with me so we can do this together since we are co-hosts. Anyways, long story short, she came. And yesterday, okay, so for those listening, Dear Media is a big production company. They do a lot of big popular podcasts. And so we were like, we need to go. We need to like immerse ourselves in the podcasting world and just kind of see what it's all about. Get to talk to some people who have their own podcasts that are pretty established, which we definitely got to do, which was so much fun and it was so cool. And yeah, we just kind of wanted to recap it and talk about it a little bit. So, what was like your biggest takeaway? What would you say?
Oh man. I mean, yeah, this is hard.
I know.
I mean, it was a full day for those listening. It was, 10 to 5, and there was a bunch of panelists. And then we also got networking time. I will say, I really enjoyed all the different topics that they covered.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about fashion. I got some great tips there.
Same.
They also talked about wellness. We have some great tips that we took from that in terms of like things we want to try out. And I will say, I think the thing that was hitting me a lot in the developing your podcast kind of like business panel when they were talking about really getting started with your show and really just like making it something that you want it to be was just the importance of really being yourself. And I remember, I just remember that hitting really for me. And yeah, so I think that that's my biggest takeaway in terms of like the panelists. And I know it sounds like kind of, benign, but I think it's an important piece for everyone to remember as you're embarking on a new thing, because it's like, this is a new thing. And how do I bring my authenticity into this new thing? And that's going to like probably shift a little bit. And it's going to be a journey because obviously we're doing this together too. So it's like bringing our individual flavors into this. And I think we do a really amazing job of that. But yeah, that kind of stuck with me. And they gave a lot of other really great motivational type of content, I think, in that panel in terms of like, yeah, just that mindset piece, mindset work, really keeping your schedule cohesive, allowing space and time to be a human, which I'm really proud of myself for that because I think I've really dove into that this last year, especially just like really making sure that I have space in my day for like my workouts, for doing the things that keep me healthy, and really prioritizing those things first. And they were just talking about that a lot. And I really felt like, although like I needed to hear it in some ways, I really felt like I've been embodying that. And so I'm really happy with where that is currently. But I would say those two things in terms of, yeah, what we learned in terms of podcasting specifically.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, so many things, like Lily said. It was really great networking opportunities. We met so many people. We got a lot of insights into, what it's like to have a production company to work with and all things. I'm not going to say anything else about that, but I think the one thing one of the panelists said, she was talking about how she creates like an alter ego for her. It's like her alter ego of like her wellness girly, and like what would her wellness girly alter ego do. And I don't know, it resonated. I was like, I feel like that is something that I want to start implementing as I'm like, because you were talking about you've been embodying a lot more of your like wellness and your routines and everything. And I feel like that was something, it was really interesting hearing the wellness panel because I was like really sitting there and, Lily and I's spiritual journeys both started with our bodies and our health and wellness journey, as most people's do. Because you like have to clear out your physical vessel before you can really connect spiritually. And so there was they had a whole wellness focused panel, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like everything they were talking about, I was like, this just relatable. And it kind of made me realize like how I want to come back to myself and my wellness in different ways. Because they talked a lot about the fluidity of wellness. And I think that that's something that's like super important, is really allowing yourself to like be fluid with your routines and with like yourself and where you're at, because like your body is going to need different things at different points. And so as we were sitting there, I was just like thinking of like certain little things that I want to start implementing, that I've been wanting to start implementing, but I haven't really been like full on going all out in it. And that's where my alter ego is going to come in. So, I'm going to let you guys know how that goes. So yeah, it just like the fluidity in that, and then it was just like really inspiring and motivating for me to like want to prioritize my health even more. Like I feel like I'm definitely a health conscious person. Like I eat really healthy, I cook really healthy, but even just like there's been this level of like presence that has been coming back in for me lately, and like I know you know this, but just in the way that I've been cooking and moving through my day, it's been just this like slowness in like a really enjoyable way. And so, yeah, just really like weaving that in, I think was like, it just felt like reinvigorating to me. Um, I think that was like my biggest takeaway, I would say. And then really cool, right when we got there, there was at least like 200 seats for us, for the audience. I'm telling this story for the audience to sit in. Okay. There's at least 200 seats. And Lily and I was all bummed because like we ended up sitting in the back because we were busy doing things. And I was like, oh, we're like in the second to last row. I was like, whatever. And then they come out with opening remarks and there's like, okay, under 50 chairs, there's little cards for Under Armour and you get a free Under Armour piece of clothing if you have a card. And so, of course, Lily looks under her chair and she's like, oh, I have one. If you guys don't know, Lily literally wins. Like, she wins things all the time. She has lucky girl syndrome. And
it's true.
And then, so I like look over at her and I'm like, of course she fucking won. Like, I'm not even surprised. And then I'm like trying to look under, I'm like, I don't see anything. And Lily's like, Jess, it's right here. And she pulls it out and we both won. And so, I don't know. I thought that was so cool because of all the chairs, we both won.
Same.
And Lily's wearing her dress right now.
Is the dress. It's really nice. And it's like really high quality too. And Jess got one that's like really similar.
Yeah. So Under Armour, if you want to sponsor us, you know, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're here for it.
Okay. We'll consider it.
So anyways, that was just a really cool and fun way to kick off the event. And it was really cool. It was super insightful. All the girly vibes, like all the girlies were there. They had like a hair station. They had a makeup station. They had a bunch of food, all the things. It was very Austin. Very Austin.
That's the first thing I said when I went in. I was like, this is so Austin. And if you haven't been to Austin, then you just don't know.
Yeah, it's true. If you haven't been here, you don't know. So all the girlies in Austin like to go all out. They like to get done up. They like to look cute. The outfits that people were wearing, I was like, I mean, we looked cute too, but I was like looking around. Both of us were like, everybody is like well dressed.
Yeah.
And so it was really inspiring though, just being in those types of environments where there's a lot of entrepreneurial energy. There's a lot of energy just like motivating you and wellness focused. Like it was high vibe for sure. The overall energy of it was high vibe.
That's how I felt too. And I've been wanting to go to an event like that this year. I've never been to anything like that before. I know you have, Jess, but I really haven't. And so, yeah, I definitely felt like the vibe was there. And that was exciting just to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Even if just to be there, you know, just to be there. And we had really good conversations as well, like in the networking part.
Let me tell you guys, Lily, this girl, she would just go right up to everyone. And I was like, well, there's my in. Like, I'm just going to go up to her and be like, hey, this is my co-host.
Yeah, I felt like a little on a mission there.
She was on a mission.
Yeah. And I think the environment was encouraging too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I feel good here.
Yes.
You know, like things are uplifting. People seem nice, like open. Most people seem really nice and open and friendly. And I think that makes it easier, obviously. Obviously, you're not going to want to talk to people who don't want to be talked to. But everyone there was just open, seemingly. And it was like a lot of people my age, too. So I felt like that was like also kind of nice. I mean, I would say probably a little bit of a younger crowd in some ways. But most people were around my age, I think.
Definitely late 20s. There were definitely people in their 30s, too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For sure. Some 40s, but mostly like 20s and 30s, I would say.
Yeah.
And it was mostly girlies.
Yeah.
I say girlies because it's like girlies.
Yeah. And honestly, I really like that vibe.
Oh, it was so great. We loved it.
Like, I love the girlies.
We love the
you know,
girlies.
like obviously I don't know like how long I could spend in that environment, but like a girl's girl, you gotta love a girl's girl.
You gotta love a girl's girl.
You do. And there was a lot of them. So that was really fun. And yeah, great conversations, learned a lot. I was telling Jess this. One of the things that was obviously in our intention list going in was to share about our podcast, obviously. Connect with people who do podcasts, learn from them, but also share ours. And I think the sweet spot in terms of that piece of it was really kind of owning that in some ways. Like we had one woman say, I love how you guys aren't afraid to like shoot your shot. And I was like, yeah, because I think like sometimes when you go into those things, like you don't want to come off in a certain way. Like you don't want to come off as like you want to extract something from someone and obviously that's not the intention. But I think being upfront and honest, like, hey, I have a podcast and like I'm here because I have a podcast. I'm not just, it's like that's implied in a way. But I found myself being like, okay, I'm excited to like share about this and not hold back in terms of like my motives for being here too, because I think part of it is, yeah, you want to learn and you also want to share about your podcast. So I feel like we did a really good job of that.
Yeah.
And we got great feedback. People were excited. We had people look up our podcast and follow us on there, and it seemed like an authentic way to connect because everyone's there to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people that go to those types of events are there to connect. And I mean, I've been joking. I'm like the queen of networking lately. I've been going to so many events and they're so hit or miss. Like you never really know what you're going to get. And so you really have to go into them just with low expectations because there can be so many times when you just get into cringe conversations with people and you're just like, get me the fuck out. And that really only happened to me once yesterday.
I saved her.
She saved me. But it just happens, and it happens at every single type of networking event. But for the most part, everyone that we chatted with were just like super open, super great, super genuine and honest. And yeah, we took away so much and we have plans.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what it did for me too. It gave me kind of a glimpse into what this podcast could be and also visions for the future in terms of like actually knowing where a podcast can go, because we were listening to people all over the spectrum, really. I mean, there were people there that I know just started their podcast, and there were people there who have been podcasting. I think the one couple has been podcasting for like 13 years or something like that. So it was nice seeing that side of it, of like, okay, this is where it can evolve. And it really did like get the wheels turning for me in terms of like seeing the vision long term and seeing where it could go potentially through the work that we do together, but also just these kinds of events just are meant to inspire that. And it definitely did for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have plans for the future, but we're not going to share them yet.
Yeah, we're not going to share. I mean, you'll know soon, probably.
But the plan does include more in-person recordings like today, because it's just so much better. We're like sitting on opposite sides of the couch right now, but we've been having so much fun this weekend. And, obviously being in a long distance relationship, because that's what we are in.
Pretty much.
It's not the same energy as in person. And I think that is what a lot of people are craving, even post-pandemic, is just like in-person interactions. And I know that that's something Lily and I have both been wanting in other areas of our lives. But we're like, yeah, we can totally make this happen. So we'll just tell you that and leave it there.
Yeah. I mean, this is our first episode recording in person, and I feel so much more at ease than I do on camera. I'm telling you, Zoom and me, like I don't know.
Same.
We need, I don't know what's going to happen with that relationship. Obviously, you guys know I don't take clients on Zoom anymore, but I still do a lot of Zoom work for other parts of my career. And I don't know. I just feel so much better doing it this way.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we're really excited and looking forward to that. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And the video component we hope is like fun to watch too, just because we're together and I like watching that too, like on other people's shows.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys are watching on either YouTube or Spotify. We only spent 2 hours getting this set up right beforehand.
Oh my God.
We would like to do a special shout out and thank our IT guy. His name is Johnny. He's also my boyfriend. We literally could not have done it without him.
Yeah, and it's like slightly concerning because if we ever don't record at Jess's house, like I honestly do not know how it will ever work unless we like teleport Johnny to us.
Like, what are we gonna do? I was literally like, okay, I'm gonna take a photo of just like everything so that I can just bring everything to where we go next and just like plug it all in, but I don't even know. So yeah, to be determined on that, but we made it. We're here.
He is so great.
He's so great.
He's so great. And he was so patient with us too. We were trying to record in this really beautiful area. Oh, Jess's dog Jax wants up. So maybe you guys will get a glimpse of him. But we were going to record in this studio that Jess had access to, but the fire alarm went off.
Yes.
For the half an hour that we were trying to get it off.
Yes.
And so, we're still learning and it's just part of it for us. But Johnny is just... he's the favorite right now.
He's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So yeah, just giving you guys some insight into our back. It was just funny. But we made it. We're here. And this is the, when you're in the beginning stages, that's just kind of how things go.
Yeah. And it's fun to like share that with you guys too, because one day we'll have all of the top notch, whatever. And, these things will only happen for a certain amount of time. So
yes,
we're just loving the process.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we can wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's wrap up.
We had so much fun and thank you guys for listening. And until next time, we definitely want to do more Q&A style episodes. So yeah, we just really love that interaction with you guys. We love knowing and like hearing what you guys want to hear as well. So let us know.